Hi everybody, Steve here again on Mr. Chuffy84. Hope you're all keeping well during this pandemic and during this lockdown, even though the restrictions are being eased very gradually. Hope you're all keeping okay. Today I'm going to be doing another review for you guys. Now you may remember from a little while ago, and this is well before the pandemic and before the lockdown, I went into my local record store here in Leamington Spa, a record store called Head Records, where I've been going for many years, and they were doing a special offer. They had got loads of second-hand 7-inch singles, and what they were doing was, in order to try and get rid of them, was they bagged up a number of them. They bagged up in sets of 10, or in some cases maybe a few more, if you were lucky. And if you bought any vinyl at all, any second-hand vinyl, or brand new vinyl actually for that matter, any vinyl, so brand new, second-hand, album, single, doesn't matter. Any vinyl purchase, you get a bag of approximately 10 7-inch singles free with your purchase. And I jumped on the bandwagon with that, and I was able to do that on 2 occasions. And you might well have seen that I did a couple of reviews of those free singles in the bag, and I made it a surprise thing. So when I was doing the review for you guys, I hadn't opened the bag. I was going to open the bag and surprise myself and inform you guys what they were. And those went down really well. In fact, of the reviews that I've done, those were the most popular because they were different, and that's fine. So I'm glad that you enjoyed those. If you haven't yet seen those, then please do check them out. The surprise 7-inch singles videos. And I'm going to do another one for you, but they're not surprise ones because Head Records aren't doing that deal. They have reopened, which is great. They are okay. They are a business that are doing all right, which is really good. And they opened up a few weeks ago, and but they're not doing that deal now, which doesn't matter. So, but all the 7-inch singles that are still there, they're selling for between 25p and 50p each. You can't go wrong, you know. So I thought to myself, I'm going to go back, you know, because there's not a lot of customers in there. It's fairly safe to go in there at the moment. And I'm going to go through the singles again, and I'm going to see if there's any others that I fancy. So that's what I did. So I got about what I thought was a dozen. Actually ended up getting 13 singles for 25p each. So 13 singles for just under £4. Incredible. And these are the 7-inch singles, 45s, as people used to call them. So I'm going to talk those through with you today. So I got those last week. I've listened through to them, and the last few I listened to just earlier today. So I'm going to tell you what they are and what I thought of them. And I hope that you enjoy it. I hope these are tunes that you may have heard of. Some of these you may have heard of. Some may be a bit more obscure. Let's see. We're covering 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. So 4 decades, late 60s to early 90s. All right, well, let's get straight to it before I waffle on too much. So, number 1, and this is in alphabetical order by artist. Okay, so 13 singles. First one is this one. The MCA label. This is from 1988. A duo by the name of Blue Mercedes. I don't know if you ever remember these guys from 1988. One-hit wonders, possibly, not sure. I don't know a lot about them. But this is their single from 1988, Love is the Gun. Now, I had this single when I was buying records as a teenager, just trying stuff out that guys I'd never heard of before. And I quite liked it at the time, but I didn't hang on to it originally. So I found it again, and I thought, I'm going to try this song again. And it is, as a late 80s number goes, it's okay. It's fine, you know, I quite like it, but there's one element of it towards the end that I'm not so keen on listening to it again now. There's some vocals going on in some female vocalists doing ooh ooh, you know. I'm not keen on that. It was all going so well up to that point. On the B-side is another mix of it, so it's Love As The Gun, Street Latin Wolf 3 edit. Answers on a postcard, please. So, yeah. I would have liked to have kept this, but I'm not going to... so I bought it once, didn't keep it. Bought it again, thinking, I'd love to, I'll see if I can hang on to it. It's just that bit at the end, it's just, you know, it just, when I heard it the other day, I just went, oh no. But otherwise, it's not a bad song. Okay, moving on to number 2. So that was on the MCA label. This is on the Mercury label. And this is from Fleetwood Mac, the one and only Mr. Lindsey Buckingham, who is one of the famous members of the band. No longer was with the band up to recently, and then unfortunately was dismissed yet again to be replaced by Neil Finn from Crowded House, and I think his name is it Mike Campbell? No, I may have got that wrong. The gentleman who's with Tom Petty and Heartbreakers. It might be Mike Campbell, I can't remember. Anyway, this is one of Lindsey's solo efforts from 1981 from his album Law and Order. And the A-side is Trouble. Now you may have, I looked at the title and thought, I don't know this, but then put it on, and then I did realise what it was. I had heard it before, and it's a good A-side. It is good. The very first time I heard Lindsey Buckingham was on the Back to the Future soundtrack. He did a song called Time Bomb Time. I was confused by the name, because Lindsey Buckingham, well, it must be a female artist, and then I realised, no, that's not a woman. No, that's a man's voice, all right. Lindsey, a name, Lindsey, a man, you know. Well, okay. But yeah, but I liked that song. I thought it was good, but I didn't realise that he was one of the guys from Fleetwood Mac. I didn't know that at that time. I was very young then. I didn't know that. But I've got into Fleetwood Mac since then, and yeah, I quite enjoyed that. The A side, the B side is That's How We Do It in LA. Now I think both these songs are on his album called Law and Order. Some of Lindsey's vocals are really great, and some are a little bit too far out. And the B side, That's How We Do It in LA, not bad as a song, as a B side, but his voice on that one is wasn't really digging it as much as the A side. So Trouble from Lindsey Buckingham, 1981. I like it. I might, if I get the album, if I find the album, then I won't bother keeping the single. If both the A side and B side are on the album, there's no point really in keeping the single. So I'll hold on to it for now, I think, until I find the album. Now, the next two I'm going to do together is they're by the same artist, and that's the case for a couple of these. Now the next ones, this band came as a recommendation by a friend of mine from my church, a gentleman named Roger, and I put out a post on Facebook about singles, and I put up a post about what my first CD single was that I purchased when I was a young boy, which might have been the Power Rangers single, just might have been. I'll say no more on that matter. Have I still got it? No. You'll be pleased to know. So I, just as a bit of fun, that's what I put up, and I asked my friends, what was your first single, whether it be CD single or vinyl single? And Roger, my friend from church, said mine was a single by a group called Darts. Now, if you are of an age of where you loved your late 70s, early 80s music, around that time there was like a rock and roll revival and a doo-wop revival at that time, late 70s and early 80s. And a lot of artists, well, Shakin' Stevens famously was one of those artists. But Darts were a band that were a doo-wop revival band, and I didn't really know them. I've seen a few of their albums on vinyl, but I'd never really heard them before. And my friend Roger, I think it was the Duke of Earl single of Darts was his first single, and he said to me, Steve, you know, I recommend them. They're really good. Check them out. If you find like a greatest hits album or something. Well, so far I haven't found a greatest hits album that is of reasonable value, shall we say. On Amazon, you're looking to pay sort of top money for a greatest hits album. But while I was looking through the singles, I found a couple of dance singles. One from 1977, the other from 78. The one from 77, taken from their first album, their self-titled debut album, Dance, was kind of a mix of two songs, Daddy Cool and The Girl Can't Help It. And I knew the Girl Can't Help It, that's a 50s rock and roll tune. And it sounded, well, the vinyl itself, sadly, is quite badly scratched. Loads and loads of surface scratches. And it sounds it, if you know what I mean. So the music, though, it is good. I actually quite liked it. I quite liked the sound. I thought it was good, but it was just very, very badly scratched. And the B-side was to Shotgun being the main B-side. There's like a medley excerpt track as well, which is a bit strange. But Shotgun's the B-side. No, not Ed Sheeran, okay. No, not Ed Sheeran. George Ezra, sorry. No, not that Shotgun. This one from Darts. And it was fine. I thought it was good, but the problem is, unfortunately, it's badly scratched. So sadly, I'm not going to hang on to that one. But the second one, perfectly fine. Plays really, really well, and that is a single taken from their second album, Everyone Plays Darts, and it is The Boy from New York, which was a more successful single for the band, reached number 2 in the UK. And yeah, liked it. I liked it. And the B-side as well, which is Bones. Actually, it's on the front cover, isn't it? Yeah, Bones. Yeah, you know something? I wasn't sure about Darts at first. Just by looking at them, I thought, not sure. But I tell you something, they're good musicians. They're good singers, good musicians, very much the doo-wop kind of style from the 50s, but brought to the sound of the 70s, basically. So, and the production values of the 70s. It was quite enjoyable, I must say. So at the moment, I probably will hang on to that for now, actually. Just for the time being. Again, I'll find the albums, but yeah, I thought it was all right. Thank you, Roger. I appreciate that. It was good. It was good to listen. I enjoyed. Obviously, I could appreciate that single more because it was in far better condition than the other one. So thank you for that, Roger. Appreciate that. Okay, moving on. So we've done B's and the D's. Now we go to the E's. 2 artists. Firstly, an artist who I have enjoyed. Not everybody enjoys this artist. I know a member of my family doesn't like this singer at all, and I mean at all. I always have, and I got it. My dad was into this artist in the 80s. He had a live, a video cassette of a live concert that she did in 1982. And I'm talking about the Scottish singer Sheena Easton. Now I love her early 80s stuff. I really do. My dad had the albums, the early 80s albums of Sheena's. He didn't keep them, and then I bought them back because I really love those albums. Madness Monday Music especially is a great album. Absolutely love that album. And I've always liked Sheena's voice. Me personally, I've always liked Sheena's voice. If you don't know Sheena very, very well, For Your Eyes Only, the James Bond movie, that's Sheena, and of course Sheena's on the opening credits. This is one of the singles from her first album. Her first album Will Take My Time, and this is one of the singles from it, When He Shines. Good song, really good song. And the B-sides are always interesting on Sheena's singles because often than not, the B-side is not on her album. And Right or Wrong is the B-side on this single. Heard it for the first time and thought it was really good. I actually enjoyed that one. Good song, well written. Really, really enjoyed it. Her albums were re-released on CD with the B-sides, but I think have been deleted. and you have to pay again top money for secondhand copies on Amazon. So eventually, I would love to get those. Even though I've got the albums on vinyl, I would like to get the remastered albums if I can, with the B-sides on them on CD. But for now, yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that. And then the other one under letter E is a duo that I only discovered about a couple of years ago. And this was through listening to a track that the lady of the duo recorded with Massive Attack, a song called Protection. And if you know that song, you know that the singer who sang that song with Massive Attack was Tracy Thorn. And Tracy Thorn was part of a duo with a guy called Ben Watt, and the duo was called Everything But the Girl, who were big in the 1980s and 1990s. And I heard Protection. Never heard Tracy Thorn's voice before Protection. Protection was on a compilation, and I just stopped in my tracks, and I heard this woman sing, and I just went, whoa, that's a voice. Now that is a good voice. I like that, and I just heard that track many times because I just love that voice. Didn't know anything about her, and then I realised she was with Everything But the Girl, and so I went out and bought some stuff of Everything But the Girl. Bought a best of, and I really enjoyed that. And then I tried to get into the albums, and I don't know about the writing. It's something to do about the writing. Some of Everything But the Girl's material, some of it, especially the latter material, is a bit samey on the album. Some of the songs come across in a very similar kind of style, and even the vocal lines are quite samey. And it was just something. I like the sound. I love Tracy's voice. Absolutely love it. But for the albums, the actual the studio albums, ones like Walking Wounded and Temperamental, I don't know. There's just something that wasn't quite there for me that made me want to hang on to them. I really desperately wanted to hang on to those albums, but I decided in the end not to keep the studio albums and just to have the best of compilations. I've got two best of compilations, and that for me is great. But I found this single of theirs. This is an EP that they brought out of covers. They did some acoustic gigs in the early 90s where they did mostly covers rather than their own material, and that went down so well live doing those cover versions that the fans said, we'd love to, could you record some of those and bring them out, because they were so good. And so they did. They put out this EP, Covers, in 1992. Love is Strange, which I should know who that's by, but I'm afraid I don't know. A Bruce Springsteen song, Tougher Than the Rest. The Cyndi Lauper song, Time After Time, which I know, 80s music fans, you know that song. And an Elvis Costello song called Allison, which I didn't know. So really the only song which I knew from this was Time After Time, but I didn't know the others. Wow. It is simply, for the most part, Ben Watt on guitar and Ben and Tracy singing melody and harmony. Wow. I was very, very impressed with it, I have to say. It was really good. It's nice, soft, gentle, absolutely brilliant, and their singing is superb on this. Really enjoyed it, and for me, yes, an absolute, I'm definitely keeping that one. Really, really, really enjoyed that one. Now to another double, two more singles together by the same artist. Moving on to the letter H now, and this is a gentleman that you may remember. Again, if you're 80s fans, you may remember this guy for one track in particular from 1985. And these two singles, also from the same album by the same artist, and both from 1985, follow-up singles to 19 by Paul Hardcastle. Who remembers 19 by Paul Hardcastle? Now that song went to number one in the UK, and it stayed there for about, I don't know how long. It was a huge UK number one single in 1985. Must have been at number one for 4 or 5 weeks. And I remembered seeing the video for it as well, when during the recent rerun of the old Top of the Pops from the 80s on BBC4. And 19 is a track about the Vietnam War, about the horrors of the Vietnam War, and what the soldiers went through, the post-traumatic distress on their return. That's what the track is all about. And it uses actual, already previously recorded sort of dialogue, which is from a documentary about the Vietnam War, set to Paul Hardcastle's music, and it was massive. It went, it went to number one. It stayed there for many weeks. Well, Paul Hardcastle did a bit more of the same following the success of 19. 2 singles. Firstly, this one, Just for Money. Just move my fingers there. There you go. Just for Money, also from 1985, also from his first album, which 19 is on. And this time, this is to do with the Great Train Robbery of 1963, featuring the voices of none other than the esteemed Laurence Olivier, and Bob Hoskins. Love Bob Hoskins, the late, obviously both very sadly no longer with us. And again, dialogue. Now I don't know where the dialogue actually comes from for this one. But it's the same kind of formula as 19. It's spoken material by Larry Olivier and Bob Hoskins about the Great Train Robbery of 63, set to Paul's track. Paul being a sort of keyboard synth whiz, British keyboard synth whiz, and Just for Money. And it's good. I quite liked it, actually. It's good. And the B-side, Back in Time, which is purely an instrumental. And I quite like those B-sides. I think they're good. They are of their time, don't get me wrong. Yes, it's dated, but for 80s stuff, it is good fun. It's good. It's a good listen. Quite liked it. I also like the B-side from 19 as well. I thought that was quite tuneful as well. So, yeah, if you love your 80s, well worth a listen. And the other Paul Hardcastle single I found as well, Don't Waste My Time. Who remembers that one? Also from that first album that Paul brought out with 19 and Just for Money. This time this is not to dialogue. This is an actual proper song with lead vocals by this young lady here, Carol Kenyon. Can't say I've heard of it before, but and it's not bad. It's not a bad song at all. It has that very typical Paul Hardcastle sound to it, and it's okay. It's fine. I thought, as a song, she's a good singer as well. I thought it was okay. I thought it was good. The B-side, Moonhopper, not as good. I didn't think. Again, very typical Paul Hardcastle, but not quite as good for me. Nothing wrong with it. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's still very, very pleasant, but not as catchy, not as great, but it's okay. It's still okay, So yeah, I quite enjoyed those. So for the moment, yes, I think I will. For the moment, as an 80s music lover myself, I'm going to hang on to it for now. Now we go back to the 60s, staying on age. Okay, now don't be too alarmed by this. My apologies for those who love this song. I have to admit, I'm not a big fan of this A-side, but bear with me. There is a story behind this. Engelbert Humperdinck, Release Me. You know the song, I know the song, and you're thinking, where is he going with this? He said he doesn't like the A-side so much, so what's the issue? Well, it's not the A-side that I bought this single for, it's the B-side. 10 guitars. Why 10 guitars? Well, for friends of mine will know that I'm a big Crowded House fan. I first heard of Crowded House through seeing a gig with the lead singer, Neil Finn, when he was doing his solo stuff. He did a singer-songwriter in the round concert with 2 other guys, Roddy Frame of Aztec Camera and Graham Gouldman of 10cc and Wax. And that's why I saw this gig, because of Graham Gouldman. I knew his 10cc stuff, and that's why I wanted to see it. I didn't know Roddy so well, and I didn't know Neil at that point. And I listened to Neil's Crowded House songs, and I instantly fell in love with them, and I became a Crowded House fan there and then, and I've never looked back. Absolutely amazing. Crowded House, now one of my favourite bands of all time. But during that concert, Neil was talking to Roddy and Graham about a song. He was telling them a story about, because Neil is from New Zealand, and he was talking about New Zealand party songs. So guys with their acoustic guitars in the pubs, and what is a song that is often played at New Zealand parties and in pubs and whatever? A song called 10 Guitars by Engelbert Humperdinck. And he didn't think that anyone else, because this was a gig in the UK, he didn't think that Roddy or Graham or the audience knew it. And yet when he started playing, and it was just a completely impromptu performance of Neil playing 10 guitars. It wasn't planned, he just did it. And the rest of the guys, Roddy and Graham with their guitars, they joined in as well, they knew it. And Neil was very, very surprised. And it was great. It was a great moment of the gig. It was so good. And the song, I really liked it. I thought it was cool. And so, there it is. 10 Guitars by Engelbert Humperdinck. Great song. Really, really love it. Release Me, yeah. I mean, everyone knows it. And it's so, yeah. I mean, yeah. But 10 Guitars, love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, we have 4 more to go. Thank you for staying with me on this. Now this is a song that was introduced to me by a friend of mine called Paul, and he used to work with me at the local hospital radio station in Warwick, Radio Warmford. Paul introduced me to a song I'd never heard of before, a song from 1991 by a Dutch band called 10 Sharp. Who remembers this one? You, by 10 Sharp from 1991. 10 Sharp had been together since 1982, but hadn't put out their first album until nearly 10 years later. An album called Under the Waterline. You was one of 3 singles from that album, and You most definitely was the biggest of the 3 by far. I think it reached number 5 in the UK back in 91, and it's a really pleasant song. When I first heard him play it for the hospital radio, I thought, quite pretty, nice. Then I heard it again the other day, and it's really quite nice. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed hearing that, so certainly want to hear that again. I thought that was good. I quite enjoyed that. The B-side is just an instrumental version. I like B-sides to be completely different tracks rather than the instrumental versions. I get because it gives people the chance to sing it themselves. To the instrumental backing track, and that's a good idea, but I do prefer different tracks for B-sides. And this next single is a good case in point. Moving on to the letter W for Mr. Snowy White from 1983. Bird of Paradise. I'm sure a lot of you guys know this one. I understand it was one of Steve Wright's favourite songs of all. It is one of his favourite songs of all time. Steve Wright. Radio 1 or Radio 2, Radio 2 DJ. Snowy White, blues guitarist and singer, a bit like Gary Moore in that respect. And the link there, of course, is that they both were in Thin Lizzy. Gary Moore was in Thin Lizzy for a while, and so was Snowy White. Snowy White was employed by Phil Lynott of Thin Lizzy for a couple of years to join the band. Then Snowy White became rather disenchanted with Thin Lizzy. Things were going a little bit awry. Phil Lynott and Scott Gorham of Thin Lizzy were well into their drug habits, and Snowy just wanted to get out of there. He loved being in Thin Lizzy, but he grew tired of it in the end because of the behaviour that was going on. And so he went out and left the band in 1981 and decided to put out his own solo stuff, his first album White Flames, and from it came this single Bird of Paradise. And it's a nice song. It is a nice song, and it's well known, and it's very, very pleasant. I wouldn't say it's the most astounding song I've ever heard, but I would like to hear it again. The Answer is the B-side, and that's where Snowy really comes into his own as a guitarist. Really lets it rip on that track, and it is really, really good. So I enjoyed that, and I'm going to have another listen to that again, because that was well worth it. Okay, the 12th single, To the Letter Y. Not many artists with the letter Y, but this is one of them, from 1982, sorry. Yazoo. Oh yes. Alison Moyet, of course, before she went solo with All Cried Out and Love Resurrection, etc. She was with Yazoo, with the gentleman who went on to form Eurasia. Andy Clark, is it? I can't remember. Is it Andy Clark? I can't remember. This is Nobody's Diary from their second album. They only put 2 albums out, Yazoo, before they disbanded, and Nobody's Diary is from the second album. I know the song. It was the B-side I wasn't sure if I knew. State Farm. As it happened, I listened to the single, and yes, both tracks, Nobody's Diary and State Farm, the B-side, are both on the Best Of album called Only Yazoo, which I've got. And the artwork on this is wonderful. It's great stuff. Just check that out, and then there's the back. Lovely artwork. But unfortunately, I won't need to keep it now because I have actually got both tracks on this compilation. But the vinyl is in good quality. They're all in good condition, apart from that one dance single, actually. But still enjoyed hearing it. Now to the final one. Now, this is the oddity of the bunch. The final single. This is a compilation EP that came free with a music magazine, by the looks of it, called The Hit from 1985. And this is the first EP that they put out, presumably as a free, and it was a free EP with the magazine, with exclusive tracks from the time. As I say, from 1985, this is it. Now, I bought this for one particular artist and song. I'll tell you what they are. You can probably see. You've got the Style Council, of course, Paul Weller. Walls, a live recording of Walls Come Tumbling Down, which I did know going into this. The Jesus and Mary Chain, Taste of Cindy, which is a new studio recording. My goodness. Redskins, Kick Over the Statues. I've heard of the Jesus and Mary Chain. I've never heard of Redskins before. Kick Over the Statues, exclusive new studio recording. But the last one, Simply Red, Every Bit of Me. That was the track that I was interested in because I am a big Simply Red fan. Always loved Mick Hucknall's voice. Absolutely amazing band. And great singer, great songwriter. And this is a song that he wrote purely as a vocal and piano piece. So it's just Mick on singing and Fritz McIntyre on piano. It's a very bluesy song, which was very much Mick's thing at the time. It's great. Love it. Absolutely love it. It's a great song. Really enjoyed that. The others, Style Council, yes, I knew it. That was fine. I knew that track well. And it's a good live version. Absolutely fine. Redskins, Kick Over the Statues. That was quite fun. Yeah, I quite enjoyed that. It was okay. But the Jesus and Mary Chain, Taste of Cindy, oh my goodness, I don't know what that's about. I'm sorry if there's anyone out there who's a fan of the Jesus and Mary Chain, but when that came on, I couldn't listen to it. I'm really sorry, but it was so noisy. It was incredible. I just had to switch it off. But it only lasted. It was only a 90-second song anyway, so I didn't really miss anything. But if you like that song and if you're a fan of that band, please forgive me. That's just purely my own opinion. So there you are. Those are the singles that I bought recently. Did you guys know those? Let me know if you're fans of those artists or those songs. And I know they weren't the surprise singles that I did before, but I thought, as those two went down well before, I thought you might like that. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that, guys, and thank you for joining me today. And I'm I'm on YouTube, obviously, with lots of other reviews. You know, a few people have tuned in. I hope that it's been interesting for you. Please do check out my other reviews here on YouTube. I'm Steve at Mr. Chuffy84. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you again soon. All right, take care. Bye for now.